The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. Today is Monday, November 25th. Excuse me. We are in Thanksgiving week here, and we have a tremendous 11-game slate this evening, and it's all the main slate, all 11 games. My name is Joe Sarvati, by the way, affectionately known as Coach, and I am going to dissect this 11-game slate with you here and try to prepare you to win some extra turkey money for the big Thanksgiving holiday. So this card is sweet. We have 11 games tonight. And just for a little quick review, only 2 games on Tuesday. And then we have a really big slate of 14 games on Wednesday. So that'll be fun. And Thursday is off, no NBA for Thanksgiving. And then they get back in on Friday. So that just to give you an idea of what the week's going to look like. But we've been things have been going great here. Just want to start off the show by just giving a shout out to my DFS compadres, Mike Apotria and our man Andrew and Miles. They're all just crushing it. Hopefully everybody's been able to catch the shows last week and through the weekend. But man, we've been hitting on some guys that are 5, 6, 7, 8x, and just some really good stuff out there with some value plays. I know we had Kobe White at 0.8% on Saturday, and he went for 7x. Last night, there was Check Diallo at 0.4%. You got to love when you get them really low owned like that. And he made value as well, actually almost 10x. So that never hurts. So great stuff. Let's make sure and jump into this slate now, though, because it's a big one. And we'll go game by game and just talk a little bit about if we have some people out, and talk a little bit about the pace and the defensive efficiency. Those have been sort of the keys that have helped us get super hot in the last week. So ride the wave. When you're hot, you keep it rolling. So, all right, before we get started, I wanted to thank our presenting sponsor and our title sponsor. They have both roles. That's Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. And I think we pretty much have the entire DFS team hitting the Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee pretty hard. Everybody's into it and loving it. So you can jump on their website, or a lot of us are just ordering it right on Amazon, and boom, it's there the next day. So excited for that, man. Enjoy it. Okay, here we go. 7 p.m. We've got 3 games at 7 p.m. The first one is the Brooklyn Nets at the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're looking at a pace for Brooklyn of 7th in the league, which, pretty fast. They've been playing fast, and that's really helped Spencer Dinwiddie go nuts here the last couple of games with Kyrie out. So that's a big plus. So we want to keep that in mind. Cleveland, on the other hand, is all the way down to 26th in pace and not playing very well. So it is a pace down game for Brooklyn. It's a big pace up game for Cleveland, although almost every game is a pace up game for them. And then from the defensive efficiency side, we've got Brooklyn right in the middle, about at 16th, and Cleveland down at 24th. So not a great combination for Cleveland. That's going to really stagnate the over-under on this game and make it a little bit tougher to play. I've been riding this Dinwiddie train, to a lot of victories, but I'm a little concerned in this game. It's, with the pace down, that could be a problem. And Cleveland's playing such bad ball right now that it's not even funny. But it is at Cleveland, and they may be able to hang in there a little bit. Kevin Love did sit the last game because he had something sore, or they were debating whether to play him or not. But I'm sure he's going to step in this game, and believe it or not, I'm going to roster him for the first time. I just feel like with the pace up, and Brooklyn is not good against bigs, and he does rebound the ball like a maniac. I know Thompson will get a lot of those rebounds as well, and I think he's in play. But being that this is such a poor game and a lower total, it's a risk certainly to play two guys. But the two guys that I would use, and I'm leaning towards Love, would be Love and Thompson. And on the Brooklyn side, the one guy that is really tough to predict, but when he hits, is Taurean Prince. He's had some good games and some really bad games. Also, Joe Harris has been hitting his stride. He's picked up some of that Kyrie usage from the perimeter. So those would be the two guys. I'm just got a feeling with Dinwiddie. I think he's going to be unbelievably high owned. And I just feel like with this pace down and, with the multiple games that he stepped up, I just think that this might be a little bit of a slower game for him where he's going to struggle to try to get to value. So if you do want to put a piece from the Brooklyn side, I would lean more towards Prince or as opposed to Dinwiddie. And, that would be sort of the key guy that I would be looking for from that side of the ball. Okay, second 7:00 game. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat here. It is the Orlando Magic at the Detroit Pistons. The Magic are playing without Vukovic and without Gordon. And again, with always, you have to check the DFS news throughout the day, all the way up until lock, to make sure none of these things change. But what we found was a lot of that usage and a lot of that action went to Jonathan Isaac. I mean, he had a great game, and I think he'll continue. I mean, it's with those two guys out and all of that activity going to him, I think he's a plug and play. Again, he's going to be high owned. I get it. But sometimes eating the chalk is necessary, and I think Isaac is definitely the one to do that. As far as the center position goes, everybody was jamming in Kem Birch or Mo Bamba last game, and they're both playable, but they're splitting those minutes. I haven't read anything in depth about Bamba other than the fact that he has been on a real serious minutes restriction this year. I don't know if they're just trying to protect him, or if it's just the medical team thinks that he needs to come along slow. But I just don't feel comfortable with either one of them playing enough minutes. If they both play like 20 minutes and then go small some of the other time, it's just not worth it, especially on a slate of this size. So I'm going to pass on those guys. Really just I'll tell you the other guy that is starting to become a guy I want to play, and I'll probably put him in my GPPs, and that's Markelle Fultz. You can see his confidence level just rising. He's playing better each game. He's hitting some outside shots. He had a couple of big finishes in a close game, the last game, big dunk at the end, and I think that he's going to start paying off. It's great story, and glad it's really working out for him. So I'm close. I don't think it's going to be this game, but when we look at the pace from this game as well, that's the other deterrent. Is Orlando's dead last. They're the slowest paced team in the league, and Detroit's 21st. So with that kind of pace, and they're not the worst defensive teams in the middle of the pack. I think, Jonathan Isaac's going to probably be the only guy I fire up here. With Griffin being back, that eliminates my play Drummond or play Griffin when the other one's out. I think they just steal too much of each other's action, and especially Drummond is too high priced. So that's where I'm going to go there. All right, let's go to the third 7 o'clock game. That is Memphis Grizzlies at the Indiana Pacers. And let's take a look at the pace in this game, because there are also a lot of injury news in this game too. Memphis is still playing sixth fastest. They've been in the top 5 pretty much all year, just come down a little bit. Indiana's 25th, so their pace is definitely slowing down. But the big news with them is they get Brogdon back today. He's such a monster stud. But, I mean, I love firing him up all the time. But coming back from an injury, very first game, I haven't read about a minutes restriction, but I can't imagine he's going to be in a position to, smash a 35-minute game. He's more likely going to play 25 or 28 at the, and somewhere in that neighborhood, especially with Aaron Holiday really stepping up and being a really reliable backup point guard for them. He started in his absence, Brogdon's absence, prior to. He was out, I'm saying. From the pace side, from the defensive efficiency side, Indiana is 7th in the league. So that is pretty stout. They're, they really get after it. They defend all positions, which makes them in play. It makes the teams they're playing a little bit more of a challenge. You got to really pick and choose the right spot. Detroit's 20th. Which allows you to fire up some Indiana guys if you like. I'm sorry, I'm going back to Detroit. It's Indiana and Memphis. Where's Apotria when I need him? Apotria is supposed to be here to tell me I'm on the wrong team because I do it once every show. Mike, shout out to you, buddy. That one was for you. So Indiana, Memphis. I'm sorry. I went to defensive efficiency. I lost my mind and went to Detroit. But Memphis from the defensive side, reset here, is only 23rd. So not great. But you've got Brogdon coming back. Turner and Sabonis are back. So Indiana, they spread the love around there for sure. And Warren gets some of it. Lamb is back. So Indiana's, for first time in a long time, at full capacity there. Everybody's playing. The sad part about it is it eliminates any value or any real play there that excites me because without question, they're going to divvy that up. So I am not going to go there. From the Memphis side, as we talked about, Indiana plays solid D, 7th rated D. Jonas Valanciunas has had his cap raised. He's been playing over 30 now, which, really makes me want to give him a run. But, this matchup against the Twin Towers there with Turner and Sabonis definitely scares me a little bit. John Morant now having to play against Malcolm Brogdon, who's a fine defender, and probably a fresh Aaron Holiday, playing limited minutes tonight, is not a good situation. So, yeah, it seems like it must be because a lot of the teams on the East Coast obviously play the early games, and when they're playing each other, it seems like I pass on a lot of these early games, and then it's the middle and late games that are the juicy ones. But this is like 3 or 4 out of the last 5 or 6 days where I go through the first 3 games and I recommend like 2 players. And that's probably right now, if I had to fire up my lineups at this moment, I'd probably go Love and Jonathan Isaac out of those first 3 games, and that's it. But, don't force plays. That's one thing. One big thing that's helped my game in DFS this year is twofold. One, don't just force a guy in to, because you want to have a representative from that team that you think, if there's anybody from that game that would smash, it might be this guy. Don't look at it that way. Just look at each game in its own specific entity. And if a game like this one, Memphis, Indiana, doesn't look like anybody is going to smash value, then pass it. There's going to be games where you want to stack two guys from each team. And as you know, depending on what site you play, you're only playing 8 or 9 guys. So it's, when you have a slate of 11 games, it's very easy to pass on that. I think what people do is they're used to playing some slates with 2 or 3 games. And when it's that situation, it's totally different. Then, you got to find some of these guys and play some of them. You're not going to want to really skip a game very often if there's only 2 or 3 on the board. So it's a different mindset. So, make sure you understand the size of the slate and then approach it from that vein. Now, for example, that's a perfect segue because the 7:30 game is Minnesota and Atlanta. So here we go. We only I'm only sticking my neck out there on 2 guys out of those first 6 teams, and now we've got a game where there's going to be multiple recommendations here. You've got Minnesota is the 4th fastest team in the league right now, and Atlanta is 9th. So when you're talking about 2 of the top 9 teams in the league in pace facing off, that gets my attention really quick. Defensive efficiency-wise, Minnesota's right dead in the middle at 15th. Atlanta's all the way down to 26th. So, they're getting back in that mode of last year where you can always want to, pretty much fire up 2 guys that are playing against Atlanta because when you combine the fact that they're incredibly, their pace is incredible and they don't play defense, it's hard to fade. I'm going to go right at it here, and there's some guys I love right off the jump. I like Jeff Teague a lot. Going against Trey and the up pace there. He's back, and for whatever illness he had, it wasn't an injury, it was like a bug or a virus. He seems to have fought through that the last week or so, and the point guard is his spot. I think he'll do great in this role, and I really like rolling him out here. Andrew Wiggins has been terrific. Obviously, he missed a game and he came back, and he's often led the team in field goal attempts, quite a few more than Cat on a lot of occasions. And I do appreciate the ancillary stats he's been able to add to his game this year. I mean, he was always a guy that would put up a line, just so points dependent. Like, it was amazing to see Levine the other night. He had 49 real points, but only 52.2 fantasy points. How you do that and play that many minutes and only able to scoop 3 additional points to your field goals, that's crazy. But he did it. And, Wiggins has done that a lot in the past. And with Teague back, I think a lot of those assists get shifted back over to him. This matchup for Cat against a very depleted Atlanta bigs with no Collins and with just Len and Fernando and guys like that. And they may have sent Fernando down even, I'm not sure. But, their bigs just are not good. So I'm going Cat here. This is going to be a spend-up game for me. And the correlation, I like Trey for the first time in the last week. I love the pace here, and I think this is my favorite game on the entire slate. And obviously, firing up Cat and Trey Young and Teague a little less on the salary-wise, it's going to be a huge chunk of my salary. But I really like this game. I think this reeks of a 132, 128 game with people getting up and down the floor and just smashing it. So there you go. 3 monster guys in one game. Boom, right out of the second flight of games shoot. All right, game 5 is the Sacramento Kings at the Boston Celtics. And we know Boston has been defending the heck out of it. They're fourth in the league in defense right now, and really respect the way they're playing. Sacramento's 21st in defense, so we do have some options on the Boston side. From a pace standpoint, though, a little bit of a red flag here. Boston 20th, Sacramento 27th. Definitely scares me. First of all, on the Sacramento side, they just, they're 7-8. Bogdanovich is playing again. He had come off a bad hamstring injury, but he played well the last game. But he healed his hit or miss, has had some good games and some bad. And after that, I just don't trust the Kings a lot, especially in a matchup where they're on the road for the second game in a row. They have to go to Boston. Boston's 11-4, playing really good, tight defense. And so I'm passing on Sacramento. On the Boston side, we have to wait and see about the Kyrie news. I think Kemba Walker news. I always mess those two guys up. But Kemba is, coming off that real scary neck injury. I think he may still be out, or if he's back, he's very limited minutes. I know he's back with the team, so certainly can't risk anything there. Determining who's going to go off between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, is a question. Those two guys are the safest, although Marcus Smart has just put in several consecutive, very efficient, solid games. They're playing a ton of guys off the bench. Wanamaker's done a really nice job. He's absorbed a lot of those point guard minutes with Kemba out. And I would recommend, if we see the news in Kemba, if he isn't going to play and you're firing up a GPP lineup and you need a really cheap guard, I think Wanamaker has earned enough to maybe get a spot like that. But with the price of Tatum and Brown in a game here that I think could definitely blow out, I think Boston could definitely blow them out. I'm going to pass and just not go after this game. I think the total's low. It just does not seem like a desirable game, and it's really spinning the wheel to try to hit the right guy that's going to do well. So I'm going to move on. Game 6 is a third 7:30 p.m. Eastern affair, and it is the Charlotte Hornets at 6-11 against the 11-4 Miami Heat, who are coming off just getting their ass handed to them by Philadelphia on Saturday. That was a shocker. I thought that was going to be the game of the night, and they were down 40. It was unreal. So Miami's back home. They're playing a lousy Charlotte team. They're obviously not real happy with what they did in Philadelphia. And, the question is, number one, are they going to blow out Charlotte, which would really hurt the play of some of the guys based on minutes? Nothing worse than having your guy sit the whole fourth quarter and just blows his value up. So that is a concern for sure. Let's take a look at the pace, though. Let's just double check that we're not missing something here. So pace-wise, Charlotte and Minnesota are sitting 23rd for Charlotte. I'm not Minnesota. All right. I hear you out there, Apatria. Charlotte and Miami. Miami is still up there, but they are dropping fast. They are 16th with a downward bullet. They were up in the top 10 almost all the first beginning of the season. So, both teams are trending down in pace. However, you got some good D here on the Miami side. They are all the way up to third, even after getting their doors blown in by Philadelphia. Charlotte, on the other hand, is 25th. So they sort of equally stink all the way around. I guess the bottom line is this. I sort of like Bam Adebayo in this game. I just think that the interior defense with Cody Zeller, and they've been playing Marvin Williams at center, and I just think he can crush it. I just am concerned about the game blowing out. So if he only plays, if it's a 25-point blowout and he only gets 23 minutes, then you're sort of screwed. So if they keep it close enough, then he can play 30 minutes, 35 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think he'll have 50-point fantasy night plus. So, you got to feel that one out, see if there's any late game news of anybody sitting out, with Miami coming back from a road trip, and this being a game they probably feel pretty comfortable that they'll handle. If there's anybody that has anything sore or tweaked, they'll probably sit them. So this is going to be a very news-dependent situation, because one guy sits for Miami, let's just say, and I'm making this up, so I don't know. Let's just say Butler sat. Then it's a whole different ball game. All of a sudden, you've got, like 3 Heat in play. Then you got to look at maybe a Nunn, a Hero, or even a Duncan Robinson. All those guys come in play, and vice versa if somebody else sits. The only question is if they are at full strength and they're playing a weak Hornets team and they do blow them out, there's risk there. But, those are the things that take down slates, but they can also cost you a slate. So it's a two-edged sword. But from the Charlotte side, really the only guy that I've fired up from the Charlotte side almost all year has been Devontae Graham. I mean, he's done very well. I just don't like him in this game because of Miami's defensive scheme. Like I say, they're a top 3 in the league defensively, and I think you got to respect that. On the Miami side, dependent on news, I'd start with Bam in the build, and if somebody sits, I'd be real comfortable throwing in another guy, or even 2 if need be on the Miami side. All right, Game 7. We're getting through here. Game 7 is the last 7:30 game, so that we've got 3 at 7 and 4 at 7:30. It is going to be. I am going to need new batteries for my remote, trying to switch around and watch all these games simultaneously. It gets a little nuts. My son gets frustrated, and walks away half the time because he's like, "You watch one play from every game." But see, I want to see everybody play. I refuse to watch commercials of any kind, and it just, you got to get into that rhythm. What I need to do is get more televisions. I think that's what we need to work on. So maybe I'll give Dan a call over at Hoopball, see if he can ship me out about 6 TV screens for research purposes for Hoopball. See if Dan, see if you can get that one through Brew for me, please. Thanks, man. All right, we go to Game 7. It is the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors. 2 good teams, 11-5, 11-4. A lot of people, other than Milwaukee, are picking Philadelphia and Toronto to be right in there with Milwaukee to win the East. I sort of like Miami, but after that drubbing in Philly, I'm trying to recover from that. But, this is the obviously the rematch in Toronto of the nightmare Kawhi Leonard impossible 18 bank rim shot that knocked Philly out and crushed poor Joel's soul. But totally different team now without Kawhi, but they're playing phenomenal. I'll tell you, Nick Nurse is a great coach. I'm just going to go out there and say it. I know this is only his second year, but the guy came in last year and won it. He won the stinking thing with a team from the East, Toronto, that no one in the world thought could win it, even with Kawhi there. And now he's 11-4 with a team that lost Danny Green, lost Kawhi Leonard. They've been playing multiple games without Lowry at the point, but he just gets it done. I think they desperately need some of those guys back, and maybe to bring some guys up or pick some guys up, because they're not playing very deep. They're playing 7-8 man rotation a lot of nights, and their guys are getting minutes. Siakam's in the top 10. Van Vliet leads the league in minutes right now, as insane as that is. So, yes, they're playing great. I don't know how long it's sustainable with the minutes that they're playing, but Nurse can coach, man. He is good. Um, this game is just a loaded game. Siakam's been absolutely on fire, but he's got to go against a really tough Philly defense here, just as Van Vliet does. Let's look real quickly at the pace of Philly and Toronto. Toronto is 14th and Philly 17th, so just average middle of the ground pace for both of these teams. But this is where, defenses win championships. Let's face it, they're 8th and 9th. So you have two top 10 defensive teams in the league facing off against each other, both with almost the identical record, both trying to win the East. A real statement game for both. Philly feeling really good about themselves after crushing Miami. Toronto feeling great about a couple of road wins on their last road trip. This will be the most fun game to watch from a competitive standpoint, and just from a pure basketball purist standpoint. It doesn't convert to a great DFS game, though, to me, just because of what we stated. Just average pace, tremendous defense, and they're both going to want this game. It's going to have a playoff atmosphere in Toronto. Those fans are amazing up there. So it's going to be rocking and rolling. Joel played a back-to-back, and now he's had a day off. So this will be, if I'm not mistaken, his third game in 4 days, which is a little bit different for him. He doesn't do that often. So I don't see him playing over 28, 30 minutes, even though this is a big game. He may, but how effective is he going to be? Because you can see him out there when he's fresh. He's one of the best players in the league. But when he starts dragging and trailing and starts reaching because he's a little tired, his efficiency just plummets. But my favorite stat of the year so far is, from a defensive efficiency standpoint, it's by far the biggest spread in the entire league of when a guy's on or off the floor. Philadelphia is 15 points better on defense, actually a little over 15.2 points better per game when he's on the floor. So that stifles Toronto's side of it a little bit. Jay Rich can defend. Tobias gets after it. Horford, we know, is a very, very good defender. So how do you really feel comfortable rolling up Siakam or Van Fleet when those are really the only two great plays? You can go second flight there with some of their other guys, the Norman Powells and different guys that, are going to get you some value. But, man, you're really playing roulette here with trying to catch one of the right guys. Same thing with Jay Rich or even Simmons in a way in a matchup like this. So all that being said, I'm going to watch this game. I like the fact that this is going to be a really competitive game and say a lot of sort of what things look like in the East with who's, second to Milwaukee at this point or close to first with them. But I'm not going to play anybody in this game. I just don't feel comfortable doing it. The price is too high on the Embiids and Siakams. Van Vliet's been a great, savings, but they're going to throw Jay Rich and Simmons at length, and they're going to really get after him. Yeah, he's going to probably play 40 minutes, but I'm just not going to go there. And I've played him almost every game since Lowry's been out. But, all right. All that for that game, and I'm not recommending anybody, but I wanted to give you the full breakdown on it and the reason why, because I know that that's going to be a highly watched game, and when people are going to tune into a game that's got a lot of meaning, they usually like to fire up a couple of guys to root for. But don't be sucked into that. You can watch it for the basketball value and not have to go there. All right, just real quickly here, we have 4 games left. Again, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. Hit them up online. If you have an Amazon account, jump on there. It'll come to you the next day. Boom, it's there and ready to go. Best coffee in the business. Also, go to hoop-ball.com and go to our forums and click on our DFS thread. We have Miles and Andy updating that 24/7. Fantastic information, constantly updating player injuries, different player news throughout the day. Stay in tune with that all day right before lock. Those guys do a great job firing that up. Also, when you're at hoop-ball.com, take a look at our premium package there. There are so many podcast shows coming out of Hoopball right now. It's unreal. Dan Vespers does an amazing job keeping it all organized, but great box score breakdown games, live games, DFS games. Obviously, we're on 7 days a week. You're also going to get all the regular fantasy year-long head-to-head dynasty, all that information and discussions and breakdowns. So if you're in a fantasy or DFS of any kind with basketball, hoop-ball.com is definitely a place you want to be. Also, when you fire us up every day, you can find Hoopball NBA DFS, the podcast, everywhere podcasts are found. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, we're there. Just you can type in the whole thing, NBA DFS Today, or just DFS Today podcast, and we come up. We have the best, I'm telling you right now, we have the best content, free content in the NBA space for DFS. And I really challenge anybody to find anything better. There's some other really good ones out there that I really respect, but a good portion of them are behind a paywall where there's membership fees, etc., involved with that. We're able to bring this forward to you because of the good people at Hawaiian Isles and at Hoopball. So we ask you when you're listening to those podcasts, just take 10, 15, 30 seconds, give us 5 stars, likes, positive reviews, thumbs up, give us a positive comment or, whatever it is, just let us know that you're listening. Let us know that your viewership and listenership is out there. And that's going to continue to drive us being able to bring this free content forward. And also want to take this time to let you know that follow us all day on Twitter. Our DFS team is on this, man. We are on it 24/7. Between the 4 of us, we are tweeting constantly. Every injury, player news that comes up, it's really important to follow us. First of all, the main Twitter that is Hoopballs, that you're going to get all that feed from our DFS guys and all the blurbers at Hoopball, and that's at Hoopball Fantasy. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Then we have at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. Andrew is at Language Olympic, and we have Miles at Miles6565. So those are the main guys that you want to plug us in and follow us right up until lock. I sort of give this talk a little bit every time because it's so important. But do this in steps. That's the best way to win at this. I've been playing DFS since it came out 5 or 6 years ago, and I really, really do well. All our pros are doing well in the NBA side, but I can speak for myself saying I've done well and better every year because I have a system. I'm studying the games early. I've tuned in to podcasts. Now you have this one, and this sort of encompasses what I've heard in all of the good podcasts through the years here that have given me information that's helped me win. So you want to listen to this podcast, and we always do it so that it comes out in the morning, the day of the games, or either night before real late, so that you can listen to it on your way to work or midday at lunch, on your way home. Take that information, absorb it, read up on some things, get on Twitter, look at some of the beat writers' reports, and then you got to jump on and follow Twitter, follow Fantasy Labs where they're posting info of what's happening. That's a good spot to get some information. Get on the at Hoopball Fantasy on Twitter and then start building those lineups and putting them together and factoring in all that information. Because if you try to jam them in at the end, you're going to make a mistake. Or if you try to make them too early and don't follow until lock, one scratch, one limits restriction, and you're dead. I mean, this is a competitive game. Whether you're playing cash or GPP, you can't afford to take a zero or a guy that plays 15 minutes or load up on a team that is favored by 15 and wins by 40 and none of their guys play more than 15, 20 minutes. Those things are going to empty out. So control your bankroll management. Bet about 10% of your full bankroll on any slate. That's just a smart way to do it. Play on multiple sites where you can get the best pricing for the guys that you like. Fantasy Draft, DraftKings, and FanDuel are the ones that have the most contests. Yahoo sometimes has some good ones too, but those are the places I would recommend to go and fire it up. And don't play the same guys on each site. You're going to find there's sometimes 1,000 to 2,000. I've seen one site where one guy was 7,800, on the other site he was 9,400. So you have aberrations like that where you've got either value or a guy way overpriced. If you love a guy but he's $1,400-$1,600 higher on one site, don't play him there. Play him on the site where he's value. So that's my best recommendation. Is this is fun. It's a hobby. I know there's a few of us out here, and we're really lucky to be able to do this for a living. But for everybody else, that most people that are just doing it as fun or as an add-on thing, but they take it seriously and they want to win money at it, you have to have a procedure in place. And to me, it begins with, before you go to bed, look over the slate a little bit, know what's coming, look at some news, then get up that next day, listen to our podcast, look through some box scores, see, what's happened in the games, look at the game flow, check that out, make sure that you get an opportunity to really see what took place, not just the periphery or not just the highlights of the dunks of the game, but dig in and look at some of this stuff. Another site that I'd recommend too is basketball-reference.com. Go to basketballreference.com. You can dig down into a game and see usage and see who was on the court and when they were on the court, how that usage was used. I mean, it's fantastic. And you can spend a decent amount of time preparing. Now, we're trying to shorten that window of time for you by giving you all of this, because when I do these shows, I'm already looking at all that stuff. So you've got a layer of that built in, but everybody has their own prejudices and own opinions. And I'm telling you, don't underestimate the eye test either. If you're watching a guy and he just doesn't look right out there, or he just, you can tell the coach, he's in the coach's doghouse, or you can tell, like, I'll give you an example. PJ Washington started at the beginning of the year, 3 or 4 games, really well. But I saw him have some defensive lapses and some rebounding lapses, and you could see the coach yanked him. All of a sudden, he was punishing him. He played 16 minutes one game. And you could see it was like trying to teach him a lesson. He felt like he was one of the better players on the team, but he was trying to teach him a lesson. And as he started to do some of that tough stuff, take a charge, do some things, now his minutes are back up again. But, you're not going to really know that a lot unless you're watching. You may think, okay, he only played 16 minutes this game because he had foul trouble. I'm going to fire him up this next game. No, you got to, check the eye test, watch these games, flip around. Hopefully everybody has a league pass. That's super important. And catch that. So, I want our listeners to be winners. I want to get tweets at Joe Sarvati saying, hey, listen to the show. Thanks, guys. Your info really helped me. Hit this, $1,000 GPP, took this down, doubled my money, played 3 50-50s and hit them all, because of some of your information. That's our goal. That's what we're here to do. We all love the game. We love the competition. But, if I could have it my way, every listener out there would be cashing money every night. So I know this was long-winded and very off the cuff, but I just wanted to share those thoughts since I'm doing this show by myself today. and really wanted to paint that big picture. I've had a lot of people tweet to me. There's a lot of young folks like my son's age, like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They're into hoops, but they're doing DFS for the first time or just getting into it, and they don't really have a game plan in play. They know who the good players are. They'll listen to a few touts, and you got to be careful with some of these touts, free tout services out there. They're going to break down a slate like this and basically give you the three highest owned guys or highest price guys, and they're going to own all of them at 7%. A lot of these sites are mass entry, 150 guys or 150 teams they're putting into these huge tournaments. And what they're doing is they're just dumping all that information into an optimizer, and they're letting their algorithm pull out the percentages and make their lineups for them. They're not hand building anything. They're just, and they may have 8% of 10 different guys. So those guys know what they're doing. They make money at it. That's cool. But I don't know if the everyday guy out there, can you afford to enter 150 lineups at $44 each, $44 each on the spin move on DraftKings every night? No, not. There's a handful of people that maybe make millions at this that can do that. But for us guys that hand build lineups, I'll usually hand build 2-3 lineups a night max, or maybe even just one, and then have a couple of GPP options that I'll put in a few tournaments. But that's the real world, I think, of 98% of us out there. So listen to our show, listen to the news, get on Twitter, have a plan, manage your bankroll, put all of those pieces together. And nobody wants to lose $20 a day or $10 a day or $100 a day. So start building it. Build the bankroll. If you have a day where you invest $40 and you get back $90, that's a great day. That next day, maybe you bet 40, so you're already going to be $10 ahead, and you play and that's how you build a bankroll. And then if you want to take a bigger shot on a slate, like I know everybody loves to fire it up on Christmas. That's my favorite day to play. And then you take your shot at a big $1 million contest for $150. But this way you're not getting hurt. You're having fun at it. You have a plan in place. Okay. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I hope everybody, I know this took a long time, but if you're going to re-listen to this podcast, listen to this section again, especially for those that are newer or looking or have been losing a lot or looking for a new way to do it. I'm telling you, this is the way to do it. I've done it this way from the beginning. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've built to this process since the beginning, and I've continued to win and get better and better at it. And I'd love to be able for you guys to do the same thing. Okay. I appreciate you indulging me in that. I feel so much better sharing that. I've been wanting to do that for quite some time. Okay, 4 games left. 8 o'clock game. Or did we do the Trailblazers and Bulls? This is where I'm way off the rails. This is where I need a Patria or Miles or Andy. I do not think we did. We have 5 games left. We did not do Portland and Chicago. So 8 o'clock, Portland and Chicago. 4 games left. Let's look at the pace. Portland and Chicago's pace. We have the Chicago Bulls 10th, and the Portland Trailblazers who have looked bad lately are all the way up to 8th. So you have 2 top 10 pace teams. This could be a sneaky little game. We know that they don't play good defense. So let's look that up and see if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but you never know. Chicago defensively is 12th, and Portland is 22nd. Not that great. So let's take a look at this. We've got Levine coming off a 49-point incredible. If you didn't see the end of that game, YouTube it, man. It was unbelievable how Chicago beat Charlotte. It was one of those impossible. It was sort of like the Reggie Miller for anybody, the old folks out there like me, when the Pacers beat the Knicks. It didn't seem possible, but they hit a 3, then they got a steal, and they hit a 3, and then they stripped the ball. All they had to do, Charlotte had to do, is get it in bounds and get fouled. They stripped it, and Levine dribbled it out and hit a crazy turnaround 3. with like 4/10 of a second left to win it. And that was right after Satoransky had hit the three to get them closer. So they scored 9 points right down the stretch to win that game. It was nuts. So watch it. It was fantastic. So how does he rebound? He's not obviously playing against a lousy defensive team. It's even worse now with Carmelo. So, you've got two teams that can score here. Lillard came back. He had missed a game or two with an injury, came back, looked okay. So he should be fine. Lillard's certainly in play against a Bulls defense that's up and down. 22nd ranking is not very good. Or no, they're not. Let me double check that again. I think it was Portland's 22nd. So Chicago 12th is respectable. I respect that a bit. But Lillard's definitely their guy. McCollum, to me, I really used him a lot when Lillard was out, but I've sort of cut the cord with that now that he's back. So I'm not going to play McCollum. They've jacked the price up real quick on Carmelo, and he is playing a decent amount of minutes, but I'm not going to fire him. He doesn't get enough ancillary stats for me, I think, to become in play. Levine is playable. He's a streak shooter. He's one of those guys, you want to get on like Buddy Hield or somebody. When they're hot, you play them. When they're not, you don't. But like I said earlier, 49 real points and only 52.2 fantasy points. I mean, that's ridiculous. You got to get some rebounds, steals, blocks, something. So I'm not afraid to play. I think a lot of people are going to say, I don't want to chase his 49-point game, but it's a great spot here. It's at home. It's against Portland. It doesn't defend all that well. And I think Levine is definitely an option for me. Inside wise, it's hard. I don't believe that, I can really trust Carter. Gafford's been getting some minutes, so probably Levine's the only bull option. On the Portland side, I need to see the news on Whiteside. I mean, Whiteside's very close to the school of thought with AD and Kawhi. You just never know. It's 50-50 before you even see. There's no such thing as in or probable. Those kind of guys are always questionable. So, if Whiteside doesn't play, Scala BCR's been a beast, man. He had 59.8 for me the other day, 14x on, I think it was Friday night. It was unbelievable. But not that he's going to do that again, but I would certainly dial him up if Whiteside's out. If Whiteside's back and doesn't have a restriction, then Whiteside becomes in play. As much as I don't like the guy, in 25, 28 minutes, he can put up monster numbers. So you got to consider him. So this is a news-dependent game. I'd look at Levine. I'd look at the center for Portland, depending on if Whiteside's going to sit. Scal, if Whiteside's playing with no restriction, then Whiteside. All right, we go to the last 8 p.m. game, Utah Jazz at Milwaukee Bucks. And this is where I'll make up some of all of that rant I went on time-wise. You've got Milwaukee and Utah. And guess where those two teams rank in the rankings defensively? We're going to let you think out there. I'm hearing guesses all over the place. Utah's the best and Milwaukee's 6th. So you got 1-6 defensive team in the league. And, that definitely is interesting. Now, you do have Milwaukee at the fastest pace. So that is a real contradiction to what Utah wants to do as the 19th pace team, and that is slow you down. Their strategy is slow it down, grind it, get some shots, foul, make it rough, make it, So this is going to be a very physical game. Milwaukee is physical as well. Utah is quietly 11-5. That is a surprise to me. I did not realize they were 11-5. That's amazing. It was well documented how bad Conley started. Those first 5 games, he was shooting like 8% or something hysterical. And, Gobert's been steady as a rock. Mitchell's been steady as a rock. And, you can say what you want about Quinn Snyder. That dude can coach. And he is a great X and O, great bench coach. he does a fantastic job. He's probably the most underrated coach in the league. I really believe that. But this will be a great game, playoff type of game. Lots of defense, lots of protecting the rim. No way I'm paying way up for Giannis going against that tough Utah D. Mitchell will have to face some tough defenders. Conley's also going to, with Bledsoe, they're going to battle, and even with George Hill off the bench. I mean, there's just a lot of good defensive, smart, professional players here. So this is the second game of the night. Philly, Toronto, Utah, Milwaukee. Those will be the games I watch the most minutes of tonight because Luke is not playing. But those are the two teams I'll watch the most of. 2 games. I'm probably not going to have anybody from either game. Very crazy. All right, 2 games left. We have the 8:30 Eastern Standard Time game. So we're going to have, my brain is going to explode tonight. There's no doubt about it. That's 3, 6, 9. There's 10 games that will be right in the middle of the action tonight, all at the same time. I'm going to have to take a couple shots of something or some meds or something before here. I'm going to stroke out, man. All right, Lakers 14-2 at the Spurs 6-11. Spurs have been awful. Lakers obviously just find a way. They should have lost to Memphis 10 times over the other day, but they won it. I can't wait to see the Lakers Clippers down the line. What a matchup that's going to be in playoffs. All right, pace wise, Lakers are sitting right now only at 18th. So, people think they're playing a little faster. They're not. San Antonio is at 15th, so nothing impressive there. The crazy stat, though, is Lakers second in the league to Utah. They just fell below. They were first most of last week. And the shocking thing is San Antonio's 28th. They are playing like garbage. They really are. So that is bizarre. Lakers are on a road trip. It's in San Antonio. It is Pop. This is going to have a pretty big spread. It's a dangerous game to play. I mean, everybody's been paying up to play either AD or LeBron. The Spurs defense really sucks. So, I don't have any problem with paying up for one of those two guys, but it's always deciding which one are you going to play? I mean, it's such a toss-up. Each of them has such a great opportunity to go off. I know the Spurs like to put Rudy Gay on LeBron a little bit, but he does come off the bench, although Pop's known to shuffle the lineup to defend matchups. So, I'm not crazy on the LeBron side. Anthony Davis, he'll get some Aldridge, and their other guys inside aren't going to be able to handle him. So I guess AD would be the way that I'd lean in this game. But you got to be able to afford him. He costs an arm and a leg for sure. But definitely a spot you can go if that wants to be your pay up spot with the type of defense the Spurs are playing. Could be a blowout game. Certainly have to fear. Lakers are, in my opinion, 15 or 18 points better than Spurs. But, you take into consideration the Lakers are probably thinking that. They're going to come in not as inspired. Pop, you never know when he can push the right button there to get the Spurs hot, and the Lakers are on a road trip. So if you want to, throw some guys up there, I get it. The Lakers play such good D, man. Anthony Davis will shut down Marcus, I think. And then, you have a lot of good perimeter defenders, that are also with Danny Green getting after DeRozan. I don't want any part of that. So I'm not playing any Spurs, no way. And they have that roulette of point guards. So it's a pass for me on the Spurs. You can always fire up. I found myself firing up one of the Laker ancillary guys as a value guy. And sometimes it really pays off. Danny Green, I think, had 27 fantasy points for me the last time at a really cheap dollar number. Rondo, I played Saturday night, I think, or yesterday, and he paid off his value. Caruso was out, so Rondo becomes more in play. So, I have no problem playing a Davis and one of the ancillary guys as a possibility there, and no Spurs. Okay, game 11. It is the only late night sweat hammer game, and this will be a game that you'll want to have somebody. There's nothing worse, and I experienced this the other night, of having nobody in that late game and trying desperately, like the cat with the nails into the curtain, hanging on to your victory and having to watch every assist, rebound, and basket count against you. It is painful. Now, again, what I said earlier, if the game doesn't fit, it doesn't matter if it's being played in an hour or being played the last game by 4 hours of any game, you have to look at the game for that reason. Don't play it because it's the late night hammer game. Now, I do get it though. It is very nice to have at least some exposure there, from a strategic standpoint. But if you're one of those people like, I'm going to watch out late games, late night hammer game, it's the NBA TV game nationally, oh, I've got to have exposure, period. Don't let that sway you. What you need to do in that scenario, play the main slate. Don't force anybody in this game. And then just play on DraftKings or FanDuel. They'll have a late game, single game play. Play it that way if you have to, rather than trying to screw up your lineup. All right, let's talk about this game because I do like a couple guys here. So it's playable. You've got Oklahoma City and Golden State. We know, everybody knows the woes of the Golden State defense, but they came out of last. They're 29th out of 30 teams now. Washington has actually passed them up as the most embarrassing performance of whatever you want to call that. I can't call it basketball that they're playing. But Golden State's the second worst defensive team in the league. And we look at Oklahoma City, and they're 14th, right in the middle of the pack. They're usually a little bit better than that, but they're down to 14th. From a pace standpoint, Golden State is 13th, and Oklahoma City is all the way down to 24th. They are slowing it down. So, this game doesn't stand out by any stretch. There are a few guys, though. Eric Paschall's been so good, man. He's getting so much usage there. He's always in play. The question is, it's 100% dependent on the news. I believe D'Angelo Russell's out again, but check on that because that makes all the difference in the world. I believe Draymond will play, which cuts into Paschall a little bit. And, Draymond becomes playable, although Oklahoma City does not play at a fast pace. I do like the potential of his triple-double if it stays a game. This should stay a close game, 5-10 and 3-14, two poor teams. So you could go there. If D'Angelo doesn't play, it brings Alec Burks especially into play. Alec Burks has been good. I've rostered him a few times, and he has torn it up. So he's probably my favorite on the Golden State side, although he has been splitting minutes with Kai Bowman, and Kai's done decently. So you got to keep an eye on that, weigh it out. Let's look at the prices on each different site and see what fits. On the Oklahoma City side, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been very good, very steady this year. He's had a few games recently, though, where they've played some tough defensive matchups, and he hasn't done as well. But this is a game where I think he'll do well. He's one of my favorite plays at his range level, and I'm going to fire him up tonight. He's going to be some of my exposure in this last game because I think just the game fits him well, his style of play, and it is an up pace for Oklahoma. I think he fits well into this into the style of play here. Other than that, though, Adams has been up and down, hasn't played super consistent. Noel's been chopping into his minutes a little bit. Chris Paul, okay at times. This looks more like a Shea game. And on the Golden State side, maybe a Burks and possibly Pascal, or if you have the extra dollars to go up to Draymond. So, all right, I am out of wind. I have no idea how long we went. I'm sure my compadres will get a kick out of me just losing track of time and going on and on. But you know what? You can fast forward through some of it. You can re-listen to some of it. You can skip some of it. But I wanted to give you the whole deal here and really go over some meaningful stuff. So I hope it hit home. If you have any questions on anything I went over, even not even game stuff, if it's just strategy or sites or questions, remember I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Shoot me any questions. I'm happy to share whatever I can to help you be more successful. And please, rate, review, subscribe on anywhere podcasts are found. 5-star likes, thumbs up. We really, really appreciate that. All right. So for my buddies, Mike and Miles and Andrew, I am Joe Sarvadi, the coach. I want to thank you for joining me on this Hoopball NBA DFS Today podcast. We will look to catch you again tomorrow when we crush it on NBA DFS. Thanks.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.